There's no better deal for $4 than the Wendy's 4 for $4 meal. Start with our Junior Bacon Cheeseburger. Made with fresh beef and freshly cooked bacon, crisp all-white meat chicken nuggets, natural cut fries, and an ice-cold Coke. All for just $4. No one makes $4 sound as good as Wendy's. Get more for $4. The 4 for $4 meal deal. Now at Wendy's. Offer includes small fries and drink at participating Wendy's for a limited time. Prices may vary. Offer not valid in Alaska and Hawaii. Fresh ground beef available in the contiguous U.S. and Canada.
The Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliate stations coast to coast present
Baseball, Beer, and Barbecue.
The 0-2, swing and a miss, strike three, blew it past it.
Discussing baseball, good drinks, and food.
And you got your honey mustard?
I love mustard.
With Ted Hicks, Todd Vandenberg, and Lee Vowell.
Well, big deal. I am very professional.
Every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. on the Happy Hour Network.
And welcome to Baseball, Beer, and Barbecue NFL Playoff Edition with Todd, Ted, and Lee. Like us on Facebook, follow us on the Twitter at Baseball Beer BBQ, and read us on thehappyhournetwork.com or our blog site, baseballbeerbbq.com. We will be joined in just a few moments by the great Russell Baxter, writer and editor for NFL Spin Zone, and he does obviously so much more than that. You can read Baxter almost anywhere and hear him on Yahoo Sports and other things. So, how are you guys? This is Lee, Ted, and Todd. How are you guys today?
Pretty good. How you doing?
I'm okay. Ted sounds like he's in a cave a little bit. Is it because there's so much snow? So much snow in the place?
He's in a snow cave, yes.
And this is my one joke this week about pop culture and the media. It's whiter than the Oscars outside.
Excellent, Ted.
Well, as we seem to talk about the weather a lot when I start, so Nashville it looked like they had a bunch of snow, and as Todd knows, in the valley here in East Tennessee, it seems to have its own weather system, almost like it's not part of the Earth. So even though everybody on the eastern seaboard and the eastern half of the United States seems like they got thousands of inches of snow, I woke up to kind of partly sunny skies and no snow on the ground. So it's just kind of crazy. So besides the weather,
no, great.
Yeah, maybe that's the white stuff that is falling a little bit. It could just be radiational excrement. So, Ted, who else do we have to thank today?
We have so many different people to thank. I guess I'll name them right now. Okay, so I-95 Sports Network, Back Sports Pages, RS Sports, XRP Radio in the UK, and our good friends at NGSC Sports that power us on the iHeartRadio app. Big shout out to our friend Brian Snow at Arena Sports Network. And we have a special tweeter friend that Todd is going to, Todd, I guess you'll thank him.
I will thank him. I wish to extend a warm, cordial thanks to our friends at Computer Repair NC, 919-653-8496. Are you asleep yet due to my soothing voice? If so, your computer may have run amok while you're asleep. Don't let the robots take over. Take it to Computer Repair NC.
Wow, that was good. It was. I didn't really have the kick on the end like it normally does. It's like just kind of holding that note. So I know that it's snowing in New York, and Ted was a little bit. He was like 20 seconds late joining the show, but I'm sure there's a good reason for it. I'm sure that there's a big party in the Hicks household because there is no Cespedes for the rest of us at this point. There is only a Cespedes for the New York Mets. So how do you feel about the Mets signing Cespedes 3 years, $75 million?
La Potencia. We finally got it done. The Wilpons finally got it done. We are no longer the laughingstocks and the little brother in New York. This year we will take back New York wholeheartedly from those darn Yankees. Now, truthfully, really, really excited about it. Excited about April 8th. Finally, we look like this is a team that's pre-Madoff, the pre-Madoff financial. I don't even know what to call it, but we're at least running at full tilt right now. We have an offense. We have great pitching. We're working on solidifying our relief pitching with Mejia coming back off of multiple, I guess HEH or PED type suspensions. Yeah, whatever it was. But I'm really happy for the team. New Yorkers up here are happy. I hate to call out 4 letters, but the fans at WFAN in New York going crazy because we never thought they were going to get it done. Without a doubt, we knew this guy was just a rental. And he was a rental for, 50 or so games. Never did we think the Wilpons would actually pull this deal off, but they did. They did, and we shall see at this point from this point on.
Hey, Ted, I got a question.
Sorry, go.
Do you think the expectations are? Do you think the expectations are too high? I mean, he's not going to do what he did, for 3 seasons. He's not going to do what he did for those few months. I mean, do you think people are actually expecting that? Or I know you're not because you're not insane, but are they going to be upset if he, if he quote only hits 260 with 25 homers and wins some games? Or are they going to think, oh, this guy's going to be Babe Ruth?
Amongst the 3 of us, I think this is definitely set up to fail any which way you look at it, because if he's a bum, you're stuck with him for another 2 years. If he's not, if he's, suspended for the rest of us, he's opting out after 1. Essentially, it's a 1-year, $27 million deal. So expectations are skyrocketed because you put one person in your lineup. I'm happy they did it because at least they show that they have some type of a pulse.
Right. Well, I think it's a great move for the Mets. I just hope people aren't like, it's unfair to him to think he's going to be, this incredible beast, for years.
Yes,
like
the guy he was.
It's a really good move for them. Exactly. He's not going to be. He might, but that's not the guy. I mean, he just caught fire. I mean, it's like expecting Daniel Murphy's going to homer every game now just because he did in, the postseason for a while. So then, hopefully the expectations aren't crazy.
What do you want? What do you want from a 38-year-old?
Yeah, I mean,
a rocking
honestly,
chair and a cup of cocoa.
It makes sense because, Cespedes is this guy who's changed teams, and really, as Ted said, he's taken the 1-year contract for $27 million, which he wasn't going to get anywhere else. That's a lot of money. So he's a guy who doesn't care that he moves around so much. So even if it's 3 years, that's still really, as it averages out, $25 million per, which is awesome. I'd take that next year, obviously. But, yeah, I mean, Cespedes, if it is 1 year, he obviously doesn't care that he moves around a lot, which is, he's there to make money. I guess good for him. So, moving on from the Mets, though, we had Justin Upton also. This is a Detroit Tigers question, so this goes out to Todd. You happy with Justin Upton, 6 years, $132 million? I mean, productive player. Good signing for the Tigers?
The thing is, when this first came out, I thought, okay. And the more I think about it, the more I like it. I mean, it's very much like Cespedes. I mean, without the thing of I carry the team on my back for the second half of the season. But it's a much better signing than I was thinking of initially. I mean, I'm really, really happy. Is he a superstar? No. But actually, I'm going to have a piece up on our network in a few days comparing him to a former Tiger great. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, this is a really, really good sign, and I'm really happy with this. Because like you said, he's productive. And he's very productive, and God knows they needed a bat in the outfield that is proven, and anything can happen. He could turn into a bum, like you said, about Cespedes. That's not going to happen with him, and it's not going to happen with Upton either, but you never know. But as far as, other than getting someone like Trout, which there's not enough money on the planet to get Trout out of there, I think it's a really, really good signing. I'm really happy that the Tigers went out and got him.
So let me ask you this, Todd. How far is Detroit from Flint? Is there any risk that Upton's going to be drinking some from Flint, Michigan?
Well, since he's black, they will probably import the water for him because they don't really care about those people.
That's
so true.
God,
and we'll get to the Oscars in just a minute, so stop trying to, speed the show along. But one more question about baseball. Of course, Commissioner Manfred has come out this week and said that the NL could possibly have the DH by 2017. Ted, what do you think about that? You should have just left it at the throat clearing. That would have been. That's what I got to think about.
It bothers me on every fifth day. Why? As a Mets homer, I love seeing Bartolo Colon go up the bat, and just that experience alone is great to see him up there doing whatever he's trying to do up there. But hey, I mean, for the NL to have the DH, I mean, I guess it's a long time coming. You even things out, and you extend the players. You extend these, players that would be, that would be a DH in the American League. I guess it's fair. I guess it's fair. Is it something I like? No, and that's why I kind of like, National League. Watching the National League a lot more than I like watching the American League, because, like I said, if you're a pitcher and you're up there drilling people, and it's your turn to get on out there, hey, you're gonna get drilled. But I don't know. I'm kind of on the line about this because I prefer seeing the pitchers get up there and hit.
Ted, as a lifelong American League fan, I can tell you need to get off the line because this is a terrible idea. It's terrible. And it's not that I want them to get rid of the DH in the American League. It's been here so long. Fine, keep it. But that's part of what makes baseball great is every field is not the same like football, so there's no distinguishing what it is. Here's another difference they're getting rid of. It's like, keep it different. That's part of the charm of it. And when they do play the bastard versions of the interleague games, which they shouldn't be playing, but at least modify it, that's part of the fun too. It's like, okay, now we got to play by your rules. No, we got to play by your rules. You go back and forth. I really hope that he rethinks this, or there's no way the union is going to be against it because, like you said, it's extending jobs. It's like, fine, extend the jobs in the American League. It's like. When your great outfielder turns 38 and he's got crappy knees and he can't throw anymore, it's like, go to the American League. That's where you go to die. It's like,
right?
Seriously, I think this is awful. Like I said, that's the charm of baseball is that it's not all the same on every team. It's like, keep it that way. I would prefer them to see, add even more rule changes between the two leagues. Like, instead of homogenize it. It's awful.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because I'm a purist. I consider myself a baseball purist, and I wish there wasn't any DH, and obviously I see the reason why the players love it because it does. It extends careers, and it's more money involved. So, and I guess the only thing that really bothers me besides the NL getting the DH, I don't know how I combine those, is the fact that you no longer have the dynamic between this is the American League and this is the National League. If you like the DH, you can follow the American League. I mean, everything's the same. Yeah. And even though that's, it's kind of a weird situation, at least you still have one or the other. This way you just have the DH. It's like, oh, come on, we're playing softball at this point. So, moving on, besides baseball, there are lots of other things going on in the world. One of them, of course, we hit on Flint water, which Todd is drinking right now. It's sponsored by Flint, so Todd may not be able to finish the show. But we do have the Oscar nominations. Todd, I'll ask you this, and actually Ted may have seen some of these films as well. The Best Picture nominees were The Big Short, Bridge of Spies, Brooklyn, Mad Max, Fury Road, The Martian, The Revenant, Room, spotlight. Now, when I was watching this at work, the first thing I thought of was, thank God there's no black films involved this year, first of all. And secondly, I'm just joking, obviously. But, it's just speaking off that record for just a second, Todd and Ted, what do you think about the Best Picture? How many have you seen, either of you, and do you have a preference as to who you think should win Best Picture this year?
Well, I don't have a preference yet because I have only seen 2 of them, which I'm going to repair some of that this weekend. I'm going to try to see The Spotlight and The Revenant. But so right now it's too early for me to say, this should win, because obviously haven't seen anything of that. I do want to say, as far as the Oscars go, that hopefully they're going to give an honorary Oscar to Rudy Ray Moore. That will repair all their damage, I'm sure. And I'm sure we'll talk about the steps the Academy is taking to fix their diversity problem, which is, they have a diversity problem, but the way they're fixing it is, wow, it's not even a frickin' Band-Aid. I mean, it's ridiculous. But as far as the reputation of the films, it sounds like it's a really, really good list. And I'm really happy that the Mad Max film was nominated. It deserved to be. I mean, that genre is rarely nominated, but it absolutely deserved to be nominated.
Ted, have you seen some of these films? Have you seen Mad Max, for instance?
I have not seen Mad Max. The only movie I've seen is The Martian, and I was preparing to see The Big Short, which I have not yet, and I guess it would be a great, weekend to maybe go see The Revenant. What diversity problem are you talking about, Todd? There is no diversity problem.
Because there's no diversity. It's not a problem because there is none.
Exactly.
There is none. I mean, you think about it. You got Chris Rock as the host. You got, I think, Reginald Hudlin as the director or producer of the show. And right. You have the Academy president, who's also black.
And those are the 3 black people in the Academy, so there's no problem.
There's no problem. They filled the quota.
Actually, I have a...
I mean, excuse me, there is no quota. Sorry.
Well, I also meant to say the good thing about the Best Picture nominees is there's also no films about doctors. So no medical films this year, I don't think. So, no, I have a friend that is involved in the industry a little bit, and he, to me, made a good point, which is the fact that it's not necessarily, it's a problem, but it's not necessarily the problem that there's nobody nominated of color. I mean, really, we're looking at a bunch of just European Americans or Europeans, but it's the fact that why are not people of color getting the roles in the first place that would allow them to be nominated for awards, which I think is that's a bigger issue than not getting nominated. It's like, why are they not getting the roles in the first place? Unless it's like Straight Outta Compton, which is, that doesn't count because that's a film specifically about a group of African American rappers. It's not like those roles were not, those are real people, I guess is what I'm saying. It's not like they're fictional characters that somebody created a script from scratch and it is, I've got Ted Hicks and Todd Vandenberg and Lee Val, and this is, it doesn't matter what color they are. Those are the actors I want in the film. It's those actors have to be a certain color because those people are a real color. So that's a big deal to me, I think. Why aren't we seeing more roles given to, and even 12 Years a Slave, great film, right? But obviously you're going to have African Americans playing slaves because that's how it was. And again, we're not seeing original scripts well written for, unless it's a smaller kind of artistic film, written for African Americans or even really Hispanic Americans. I mean, we're just seeing white people. That's a problem.
Would you have a problem if Straight Outta Compton was released and you found out it was 4 white guys playing Easy, Yella, Ren, and Cube?
The funny thing is, it depends. To me, that film could be made, but because of it could be showing some irony. It could be used to show some irony among what we in color in this country. And you could see George Washington. Well, for instance, you live in New York. There's an awesome Broadway play right now called Hamilton, which has
Yes.
African Americans in it, playing those roles
Yes.
that were white people, and it sets, that's the point. Obviously, the people involved are extremely talented, and I think PBS is actually creating a documentary based on that. But that could be a point. So Straight Outta Compton, because it's the issues involved could be shown ironically as well as straightforward, but we don't see anything with African Americans or again like Hispanic Americans. It's just what are we looking at? We're just looking at a bunch of white roles. And now I will say, getting back to the Oscars themselves, I have seen The Revenant, saw it last weekend. Really, really good film. DiCaprio is, as always, great. Tom Hardy, again, as always, really good. Definitely worth seeing. I have not seen Mad Max, but it is on HBO, so I'm hoping to see that. I haven't seen the other ones, to be honest. I want to see Brooklyn because it's about my people, in a way. And because I'm Irish American, so that's a film I want to see. And that's why I want to see
Black Irish.
Black Irish.
Lee, your people are my people, all right?
Well, that's the way. I mean, you're making a joke, but that's kind of how I see it. Because it's not.
Of course.
We care too much about color in this country, and we shouldn't. We should be a country that doesn't care so much about color because we've been blended since the time we were created as a country. But we still care about those issues. It's ridiculous. It's unfathomable to me. And that's the issue with this country. We got Donald Trump hating on the right. I don't care what people say. He hates. He gets votes because he's angry, and he says, I'm angry. And that's who we want to elect? Seriously? What's wrong with us? Honestly, it's ridiculous. So another person that we can hate on, David Blatt, because he's no longer employed with the NBA. So Ted, I was shocked. Honestly, I was like, Blatt is, they made the finals. He's 30-11 this year. Maybe he's not the greatest coach ever, but you kind of live with the guy if he's winning. Ted or Todd, do you have a reaction to Blatt being fired? Are you shocked by it, or does it make more sense for the Cavs to go in a different direction?
Can I just jump in here and say,
Please
doomed from the start. This wasn't the job what he was hired for. Have you ever been in a situation where you take a job and you go in there and it's totally not what you thought it was going to be? That is the David Blatt situation. And as much, because remember, there was no LeBron, no Love. There was just, hey, you're going to have Andrew Wiggins. This is going to be a rebuilding period. You're going to have a mixture of some veteran players, and you'll get to mold this team as you see fit. That's what he was sold when Dan Gilbert signed him. The whirlwind happens, 24 months ago. Someone says he's coming home, and then Kevin Love shows up on the doorstep, and next thing you know, you go from developing a team to championship aspirations, championship or bust, and doomed to fail. Doomed to fail because you have the uber all-star with you doing, and we're all LeBron fans, but could you imagine how it is coaching LeBron? Could you imagine? Just imagine when, Lee, you put together this cut sheet, this outline, and I just veer off the outline like I do every week, and you just kind of sit there and say, okay, let me rein Ted back in, or Todd does something, outlandish, and you're just like, guys, let's go back to this. I don't know. It was doomed to fail. What's your thoughts, Todd?
I agree with you 100%. And Lee will appreciate the reference. There's a place called Atomic Speedway up there. And it's just like a dirt track. He was signed to race a dirt track car, and then all of a sudden they said, we're going to throw you into Formula One. It's a different job, absolutely different job, coaching a developing team than coaching a team full of superstars, and especially in the NBA more than anything else because they're making just almost an infinite amount of money more than you are. They have all the power. You've got to have a very strong personality. You've got to be a Phil Jackson. You have to be someone like that to handle those personalities and get them to mesh. The record yeah, the record's great. Yeah, and they made the finals. But like you said, it's championship or bust. You got LeBron making the championship. That's not good enough. Which is why it amazed me that Spoelstra lasted as long as he did down in Miami. It was like, he's fine now that he only has a really good team instead of a great team. Like, he's good enough for that team. It was absolutely doomed to fail. It was like, he is not the coach for that kind of a team. And, regardless of the record, they had to make a move because, especially after what the Warriors did to him, there was no way they could keep that guy because you're telling your fans, we're good with a 42-point loss. You can't do that. And it's just one game, but hopefully those are the guys you're going to be facing in the finals. How can you keep that coach? You can't.
Yeah.
If they had lost and it had been competitive, okay. But to be absolutely annihilated, like, nah, dude, sorry, you're gone. Because you can't fire LeBron, although it's good to know that he does have a contract of Uber so he can pick up some money on the side. I didn't realize he was one of those guys.
That's funny.
Hey, Lee, can I say one last thing?
Great.
The fact that LeBron signs these one-year deals kind of has these guys hanging by their kahunas.
Oh, yeah.
He has all the power. All the power.
But they didn't let him know until an hour before the report. You don't think they let him know? You don't think? I mean, everything that's come out has said that. It's not like one little report. It's almost like they didn't. The funny thing is, it's his one-year contract thing. That's not even his fault. That's the NBA's fault because they're always raising the cap. So why would you not just say, yeah, I'll get more money next year? I mean, that's just a smart. I do think that Blatt was a weird hire to begin with. He's never coached in the NBA. It was a head coach. It was just a weird hire to begin with. And, yeah, it's overreacting to a regular season basketball game is one thing, but it's a weird chemistry on that team anyway. It's almost like Kevin Love is like the equivalent of Jimmy Graham in Seattle because he doesn't really fit, but they want to make him fit, and it's one of those things. So I don't know. It's a weird chemistry.
Hey, Todd.
Hey, Ted.
Todd, we're looking at possibly adding or deleting some shows from the Happy Hour Network. We're not going to tell Lee about this, but we're just going to go make this happen, okay? Wink, wink.
Exactly. And as far as the 1-year contract, it's like Ted. Ted's on a 1-week contract, week to week. We don't tell him who the guest is going to be, but he still has all the power. We know how it rolls. We know how that rolls.
Yeah, well, if for some reason the Seahawks show has 100 more listens today than it did yesterday. I have no idea what's happening with that show. It's really weird. Seriously.
That's the hottest show. It's the hottest show on the Happy Hour Network. Seahawks show kicks ass.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It just really does.
Yeah, we're lucky to get the guests we are. In fact, we have a great guest tomorrow, not on the Seahawks show, but on the tennis scene with Joe Kennard. And we're going to talk Australian Open. We'll also get to talk a little bit of tennis match fixing, if that's a deal. That seems to be kind of overblown. It's a big deal, obviously, in any sport, but no, we'll get into that tomorrow. But that's at 10 a.m. tomorrow live. You can catch that on the Happy Hour Network. And before we're joined in just a couple of minutes by the great Russell Baxter to talk playoff football games, we've talked about diversity issues in movies, but we actually had a really good thing happening with the Buffalo Bills this week. They hired Catherine Smith as a special teams quality control coach. Todd, what do you think about that?
It's long overdue, not just in her particular case, but in general with females in sports. I was assigned an article by NGSC, which I wrote, and thank you for that assignment, guys, a few weeks ago, about this very concept of, it's like, well, when are they going to start breaking through and really making an impact? Like Jen Walter, of course, is with the Cardinals. Unfortunately, it was just a temporary position, but now we've got the Smith. So, yeah, very, very long overdue. And it's this whole why the gender of a person matters in this country. Like, why does the race of a person matter in this country is beyond me, but it still does. Gillian Anderson having to fight with Fox to get the same pay as Mr. Duchovny for their X-Files. It's like, it seems to me those are equally important people, so why is one getting paid more than the other? That makes no sense whatsoever. It's just, it doesn't matter what the hell the industry is. Why does Jennifer Lawrence have to fight for money when the only reason the Hunger Games are doing the huge amount of money is because she's the star and she carries those films. Yeah, they're great action pictures or whatever. They keep on trying to do it, and it doesn't work because those movies don't have Jennifer Lawrence. So, yeah, it's about time that the NFL is catching up to the world, and hopefully the other sports will continue to do this. You know, Becky Hammon's leading the way in the NBA. I mean, the sad thing is like you can name the one woman in every major sport. Oh, let's go to the NBA. Well, it's Becky Hammon. It's like, let's get to the point where, like, it's 50-50. Now, unfortunately, we are a long, long way from that, but there are an awful lot of qualified candidates out there now where there could easily be, you know, a dozen women in every major sport ready to go right now. And as that continues, there's going to be more and more available who will have the background that's necessary for it. So long overdue and very happy to see it.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. So, Todd, do you want to tell us about our great guest that we have on right now?
I would love to tell everyone, the thousands and thousands, and okay, all 6 of you that are listening right now, we do want to welcome Russell Baxter to the program. He's the editor and a writer at NFLSpinZone.com. He can be found on the Twitter at BaxFootballGuru and online at ProFootballGuru.com. Russell, thanks for being on again with us.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are we doing?
We are great. No one else wants to say hi. They all hate you. So
I can't be that intimidating over a cell phone.
Hopefully you.
Russell, how you doing? This is Ted. How you doing? Thanks for joining.
I'm terrific. I'm watching the snowfall up here in Connecticut. We just started a couple hours ago. Nothing like what they got in D.C. yesterday. But it's going to be a wintry weekend and a good backdrop for the Final Four of the NFL.
It is indeed. And then let's just jump right into it. Because last week, Pittsburgh, they were missing almost all of their big weapons. Roethlisberger was banged up, even worse than Manning. Denver still had a tough time against them. Were they looking past the Steelers to the Patriots, or are they really just not as good as the record and the defensive stats seem to show?
No, I think they're pretty good. I don't think I really agree with your evaluation. Can I ask you a question? You're already picking New England to win?
I am not picking New England to win, but...
Okay, your introduction was kind of slanted. That's why I didn't understand it. No, if you look back at the 2 Pittsburgh games this year, Ben Roethlisberger gave the Denver defense a lot of issues, and that's because the Pittsburgh Steelers are fast and deep at wide receiver. It's a matter of matchups more than anything else. Denver probably played its 2 worst defensive games this year against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, no, I don't think Denver's defense is overrated in the least. You don't give up the fewest yards, the fewest passing yards, get the most sacks, give up 29 offensive touchdowns, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't think Denver was looking past New England because, when you're 7-0 and then 5-4 in your last 9 games, I don't think you're looking past anybody. I think you had a quarterback who hadn't made a start in about 2 months. You had windy conditions, which caused some of Peyton's throw, and he's not exactly zippity-doo-dah on the ball. But I think the wind conditions, a lot of drops by their receivers. No, so I mean, let's put it this way: you looking past somebody in the playoffs, you'll be looking past somebody for about 9 months.
Hey, Russell, this is Ted once again. So, question for you: what is it that separates Bill Belichick from most other professional football coaches that allow his teams to win, so consistently?
Continuity, system, homework, knowledge of the game, being able to have the type of player that he wants, knowing when it's time to necessarily bail on a player, sometimes because of performance, sometimes because of money. But the continuity is the most important thing. He's the longest tenured head coach in the league with one team. For people who say it's all about Brady, I can't buy that when we had basically an 11-5 season with Matt Castle at the helm. He's the ultimate strategist. Before he was a head coach, and it's funny, people point to his quote unquote failures in Cleveland. You got to look at that a little closer. The first 3 years, yes, they were struggling. In the fourth year, he got into the playoffs, actually beat one of his mentors, Bill Parcells, in a playoff game before losing to the Steelers in the divisional playoffs. Then people conveniently forget what happened in 1995. Yes, the team fell apart on the field, but the team also fell apart off the field. In November, we found that the Cleveland Browns weren't going to be the Cleveland Browns anymore. If you don't think that has an effect on the entire organization, then you're not paying attention. So just when Bill Belichick looked like he had gotten things turned around in Cleveland, they took away his football team. And being the scholar of the game, he went back and worked with Bill Parcells a couple of times. There was the, craziness of getting the Jets job and holding it for about 36 minutes, and then deciding he didn't want to go there. One losing season up in New England, understandable. Off to a bad start the following year. In comes Tom Brady, and that was part of the turnaround. I mean, listen, the first year they won the Super Bowl was kind of a magical year, let's be honest. Their offense scored 3 touchdowns in 3 playoff games. They missed the playoffs in 2002. So it could have been very easy. And then, remember, 2003, how'd that start out? He let go of William Malloy, and they got beat 31-0 by the Buffalo Bills. And the league, for the most part, has been paying for it ever since.
So next question is, can Denver's front seven get enough pressure on Brady to win, or does Gronk chew up the league's best defense? And a bonus question is, can the Broncos slow...
question? Is that for the steak knives or the El Dorado?
And can the Broncos slow the underneath and seam routes that the Patriots seem to run all the time?
Yeah, they do. I don't know sometimes when I'm watching the New England Patriots or the Boston Celtics. Can they pressure Brady? Well, in the first game, when they played each other back in Week 12, they did sack Brady 3 times. They held the Patriots to 2 of 13 on third down conversions, and they did that without DeMarcus Ware. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say, yes, they can pressure Tom Brady, because I think their linebackers can cover, and at the very least make things a little difficult. Now, no Amendola and no Edelman in the first game, so I understand as well. This is a great chess match between Wade Phillips and Josh McDaniels. Ironically, 2 guys who were former head coaches of the Denver Broncos. Rob Gronkowski, he kind of defies anything you want to do. I've suggested all week that the Broncos rush one guy and cover him with 10. What do you think?
Makes sense.
Yeah. No, he disrupts everything. It's like watching Herman Munster or Lurch run down the field. Longtime football fans will remember Mark Bavaro running through the San Francisco 49ers 1986 on a Monday night, okay? Rob Gronkowski seemingly does that every play, okay? He is a mule in every sense of the word, and I mean that positive of ways. He's the kind of football player you want, okay? He moves the chains even when they're stuck in the ground. So, obviously, and listen, I know there's been a lot made of hitting him low this week and stuff. Well, if you hit him high, you're liable to bounce into the stands. The NFL doesn't want to hit anybody high, as we saw with Danny Amendola last week. Okay? So, I understand. When people say going for his knees, they're aiming lower body. They're not trying to blow out his knee. Okay? So, listen, he's a game changer. There's no doubt about it. But there's one way to keep Tom Brady from completing passes to Rob Gronkowski, other than the pass rush. And that's keeping Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski on the sidelines. And I think that's the goal of the Denver running game on Sunday.
So if Denver gets off to a slow start with Manning at quarterback, is there any chance that Gary Kubiak goes to Brock Osweiler?
Was that a real question? Are you guys familiar with the term leading the witness?
Oh yeah.
You guys have more leads than a host. So no, I don't think so. I think the only way Peyton Manning comes out of this game is if he's hurt. Okay. listen, we seem to forget the last time we saw Brock Osweiler, the Broncos were turning over the ball 5 times, and he had 3 of them. Okay? The one thing that Peyton Manning has not done since he got back is turn over the football. Okay? When you have a defense like Denver's and you have a running game like Gary Kubiak's, you combine those, you can win a title. It might not be the sexiest of titles. It might not be those extraordinary of titles. Okay? But nobody begrudged the New York Giants in 1990 or the Ravens in 2000 or the Patriots in 2001. It's not a style points league. It's a results league. And that's the beauty of football. You can win a lot of different ways. But the best way to win is keep the other team on the sidelines. And they did. People forget, even with the high-scoring Broncos of 2013, do you remember the championship game against New England? Denver held the ball for 35 minutes and 44 seconds. And that's when they didn't even have a great running game.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I have a next
get lucky every once in a while.
So this next question, again, we're talking to Russell Baxter of NFL Spin Zone and many other places, is not a leading question. But before the season, you picked the Patriots to win the Super Bowl. Who wins it now? No, I'm just kidding. So, obviously there's some trends going into this game. We've seen the much better record as far as Brady versus Manning. Are there any other trends that may not show up to, the common fan just looking at, I guess Brady and the Patriots always win? Are there any other trends that show up that may show that maybe the Broncos or the Patriots have an advantage in tomorrow's game?
Well, listen, there is if you want to get historical in terms of, Tom Brady's success. It's funny, Tom Brady usually plays well in Denver. It's usually his team doesn't necessarily do well in Denver, and that goes back even before he was there. I think we make too much of the fact of Brady versus Manning. It's not Ali Frazier. They're not throwing punches at each other, okay? I would argue that Tom Brady's had better teams than Peyton Manning. I would say Peyton Manning, for the most part, in the early days, had a lot of teams that were more offensively driven and poor defensively. I would say for the most part, the teams, and some of this due to Peyton because of how much they threw the ball, these were not great defensive teams. Listen, they're both, great in their own way, but it's not, they already beat them this year with Brock Osweiler. You could go as simple as that. They already beat them this year with a different quarterback. They handed them their first loss of the season. So, listen, defense usually prevails. I'm not saying it's going to necessarily this time, because New England's defense is top 10 as well. By the way, these two teams won 2 in the league in sacks this year, 52 for the Broncos, 49 for the Patriots. So, listen, Tom and Peyton might spend the afternoon game, licking their wounds after this thing is over. Okay? So, I don't know if there's necessary. Here's what I do know. The last 2 years, the home team has won all 4 championship games. Okay? Now, in 2012, the road team won both championship games. So, I think it's pretty safe to say when you have 2 organizations, by the way, combined you go to 15 Super Bowls, okay? And you see what you have in terms of coaches, quarterbacks, and a lot of other key players who have been around quite a while. To me, this shapes up for overtime more than anything else.
That'd be fantastic. That would be very exciting. So it's interesting because you mentioned defense. ESPN, for some reason, wrote an article a few weeks ago saying that defense doesn't win championships anymore. I'm not really sure what they were looking at. Maybe they'd never watched a football game before. But, moving over to the NFC championship game, which defense do you think matches up better schematically against the opposing quarterback, the Panthers or Cardinals?
Oh, boy, that's a great question. Because, to me, this is the high-scoring game of the day. And it's brought on by the fact that these were the 2 highest-scoring teams in the league this season. And Carolina actually led the league in scoring, 500 points. Arizona not far behind, 489. 54 offensive touchdowns by the Panthers, 51 offensive touchdowns by the Cardinals. Both quarterbacks threw 35 touchdown passes. And both of these defenses know how to run back interceptions. So you combine all of that, and the fact that you have playmakers on both sides of the ball leads me to believe that this is going to be – now, I've been kidding all week that Carolina will get up 45-0 in the first quarter and then win 45-44. So we've seen Carolina squander some leads this year. We have seen the resiliency of the Cardinals, who just looked very rusty last week after the layoff. I mean, trust me, it's been a while. The last time the Cardinals had a layoff between playoff games was the Super Bowl 7 years ago. Okay? There used to be a wild card the times they have made the playoffs, or a division winner that plays in the wild card round. I don't know if necessarily the safety play for Carolina the last month and a half has been shaky. The safety play for Arizona, obviously without Tyrann Mathieu, will be shaky. As we saw last week with Aaron Rodgers connecting on 4th and 20 with 60 yards, and then a Hail Mary touchdown pass, which I think he leads to. Isn't it ironic that you would throw a Hail Mary against the Cardinals?
That is funny.
That might be exactly.
I think neither one of these defenses matches up with the other one because both of these offenses are prolific. Okay? Arizona led the league in total yards, second in passing. Carolina was second in rushing. They ran the ball more than any other team in the league. Isn't it funny? Denver and New England combined to go to 15 Super Bowls. Carolina and Arizona combined to go to 2. And yet, regardless who wins tomorrow, my belief is the NFC team will probably be the favorite going into the Super Bowl.
And I think they should be, just for the reason you said. I mean,
yeah,
it's top scoring, and they're the best defense.
For the experience of the other franchises and the lack of experience by Carolina and Arizona, it's just fine. But they've been the better teams. I mean, both Carolina and Arizona set franchise records for wins in the season. Now, that's not surprising with Carolina because they've only been in the league since 1995. But the Cardinals have been in the NFL since 1920. It was the first time they won that many games in the season. They had never won more than 11, and they went 13-3.
Which is amazing. We're going to stay with on the defensive questions. The Panthers, like you said, they're banged up in the secondary. What can they do to contain Larry Fitzgerald, Brown, Floyd, that whole wrecking crew they have over there in Arizona?
I don't know, because what Larry Fitzgerald does now in the slot and what Larry Fitzgerald has done in the playoffs in the times that he's been in it has been amazing. It revived his career being a slot receiver. He caught 109 passes, 9 touchdowns. Yet it's funny, Ted Ginn caught 10 touchdown passes. He's like a perfect fit for Cam Newton being able to throw the ball deep. But, I don't know what you do. I mean, Michael Floyd, John Brown, they're loaded at wide receiver. And the Panthers are already short-handed when it comes to cornerback. So Carolina has to hope that Arizona struggles against the run like they did last week. They gave up the big run to Eddie Lacy. That kind of changed the momentum of the game. We all talk about quarterbacks, and yet the running game is still – just because we don't do the running game or draft the running game the way we used to, it's not any less important than it is. And that's why David Johnson and Jonathan Stewart and the tandems, I mean, for Denver, it's C.J. Anderson and Ronnie Hillman. And for New England, well, I'll take your pick, Steven Jackson and Mosi Tutupu. How's that? New England's the anomaly here because New England not only doesn't run the ball, it's almost like they refuse to. But ask a coach, what's your first priority on defense? They will tell you to stop the run. And the reason that is if you can run, you can play action pass, you can control the clock, you can keep the other team off balance. You're setting the tempo of the game. All 4 of these teams want to set the tempo of the game. And especially in a high-scoring game, if you feel like your team can't match points, you do whatever you can to keep that other offense off the field. Again, I think that's Denver's game plan. Remember, Denver scored 110 points less than the New England Patriots this year.
It's a big difference. Finally, our last question is, what do you see as the biggest advantage for each of these teams heading into the games?
Well, I mean, I guess it would be easy to say at home, but not necessarily, because I think New England's capable of winning anywhere. And Arizona's also proven. I mean, they only lost 1 road game this year, was at Pittsburgh. Certainly nothing to dismiss. I think the biggest advantage for Denver is the ability to rush the passer. And with that offensive line of the Patriots, that's certainly a question mark. I think the biggest advantage for New England is their adjustments, their adjustments against any defense. And again, they will have Edelman and Amendola in this game. Edelman changes things underneath, For Carolina, listen, Carolina's big, fast, and relentless when it comes to running the football. That is a definitive advantage because a lot of times when conventional wisdom says don't run, they defy it and say we are going to run. When it was all said and done last week, they ran the ball 41 times against Seattle. And as far as Carolina, I think the big advantage is Bruce Arians. Fearless, aggressive. He's seen about everything, even though he hasn't been an NFL head coach at long. And by the way, in the NFC, I don't know who's going to win Coach of the Year this year, but let's just say it is Ron Rivera because they were 15-1. Okay, guys?
Okay. Makes sense.
Okay. That means the last 4 NFL head coaches of the year, if Rivera does get it, would be Arians, Rivera.
Huh. I did not know that.
Interesting.
Now, go ahead, play chess against Bobby Fischer.
I would prefer not to get my ass whipped again.
But think about that. Arians with the Colts, Rivera with the Panthers, Arians with the Cardinals, and then if it is Rivera, and listen, there's obviously other great candidates like Mike Zimmer, what he did with the Vikings and so on, and Todd Bowles with the Jets. But say if it is Rivera, wouldn't that be interesting? The last 4 head coaches of the year, actually all in the same place.
Yeah, let me ask you about that, though. Because, again, I'm being a Seahawks homer, but John Schneider hasn't won Executive of the Year. Is it just a popularity contest from year to year, or is it just...
I don't vote on it, and Executive of the Year is not an Associated Press award anyway. I believe isn't that the Sporting News?
I think so. It's just in general, though. It's like, they don't give it for... It just seems like, this person had a good year. Let's give it to... not getting back to the Oscars, but it's it's like it's a popularity contest. It seems like, is it not?
Well,
or is it?
I don't know because I don't know who the voting board is for the Sporting News.
Okay.
I know the Associated Press has 50 members on it, but they don't do Executive of the Year. They just added Assistant Coach of the Year. So I don't know if it's necessarily a popularity contest because I don't know what the criteria is. A lot of times Coach of the Year is the most improved team in the year, whether that's fair or not. But in the case of a 15-1 team, sometimes it's hard to ignore. But I can't speak on something that I don't know. I have no idea who makes the awards for the Sporting News. Okay, yeah. I don't know if it's one person, 10 people. If it's an online vote, I have no idea.
But even if it's Rivera at the Panthers, they had a 15-1 record, sure. But there could be a team that. And again, this is a generalization, obviously, but there could be a team that goes 8-8, and it's like, you know what? Without their head coach, they would be, 2-14. It's just, best record is great, but that doesn't mean he necessarily did the best coaching job.
I didn't say best record. I said 15-1 record. I also mentioned Mike Zimmer and Todd Bowles.
You did, yeah. Okay. But you're an intelligent person. But so you may vote for someone other than someone who is 15-1. I'm just saying in general.
Well, thank you for the compliment. And how do you rate on intelligence? I don't know what you mean by that.
Oh, I'm really low. I vote for Pete Carroll every year, no matter if they.
Oh, I see.
If I had a vote. Yeah.
I see, Adel. Oh, yeah. I see.
Yeah, it's easy for me. Thomas Rawls is Rookie of the Year.
There are so many awards that come out. There's the Associated Press, is what the NFL recognizes. There's the Pro Football Writers. I vote on those. The Pro Football Writers Association. There's other publications. Yeah, I'm sure Sports Illustrated gives out awards as well. As far as I know, the only one that gives out the executive is the Sporting News. And again, who knows? But you bring up a very, very valid point. Okay, you have a 1-15 team the year before. Okay? Again, it's usually a lot of times with the most improvement. Okay? Let's not also forget, this is where it gets lost in the mix. Okay, how many games did the Carolina Panthers win last year, guys?
I knew you were going to ask, and I don't know, to be honest.
Oh! I bet you know how many games the Seattle Seahawks won last year.
Well, yeah. But that's an easy one for me. I mean, if you ask me about any other team.
I got you. No. Let's not forget Carolina was 7-8-1 last year.
Okay.
So they more than doubled their wins this season.
But the same coach, right?
Yeah, with the same coach.
So, that's interesting.
Wait a minute. Isn't Pete Carroll been coach longer in Seattle than Ron Rivera has in Carolina?
Well, he hasn't been coach in Seattle long enough because they only have one Super Bowl win, unfortunately, and they should have had two. So,
oh my goodness.
Hey,
oh my goodness.
One more
this
question.
This is stunning to me. I thought I was coming on here to talk about the Final Four, not the Final 4.5.
Well, yeah, that's 4.5 is a good point. I'm not sure whose phone is ringing, but 4.5 is a good point because that's the only thing that the Seahawks played last week, which was the half. I'll leave this last question with you, and this is more just a general question as well. But the Seahawks have supposedly warned the Cardinals about the turf in Carolina and about how bad it was last week. It's interesting that a division rival, to me anyway, would warn another division rival before they go into opposing territory. Is that something that happens a lot in the NFL? I mean, is that their is there coaches talking to other coaches a lot, or is that something that's more of an outlier?
Well, I would think it happens a lot. That would be my guess. I mean, I don't know all the conversations that go on between head coaches and stuff. Obviously, the coaches talk before the game. I think it also depends on the relationship that you may have with a coach going back. So I mean, it might be somebody. I don't know if the Seattle Seahawks, made an official call. It could have been assistant. It could have been anybody who said, hey, you should watch yourself with the turf and all that. So I think that in this day and age, it's kind of more routine. It's not football and rivalries, even though they are still intense, do not carry, for lack of a better word, the consistent venom that used to take on before free agency. Okay? Players talk to players, opposing players hang out with other players. It's a lot different than it used to be. So to me, that would be, to me, it's a non-factor. Let's put it this way. If the Arizona Cardinals needed shoe advice from the Seattle Seahawks and their trainers weren't aware of the conditions, by the way, in a place that they played last year in the playoffs. So I would imagine Arizona would be pretty well up on the turf given the conditions, especially the conditions this weekend, which obviously are going to be a little different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point, actually. Really good point. So, Russell, always great to have you on. I've had you on, been able to have you on lots of different shows. You're always fantastic, obviously. Will you let the huge amount of millions of listeners that listen to this show, will you let them know where they can find you on the interwebs?
Are we talking about the millions or the 6 people?
There's really 6, but I like to say millions.
It makes me... Now, see, that's not a cheap shot. That was your number.
Yeah,
that's statistical accuracy.
Good point. That's excellent.
By the way, you're a Seattle fan. I would think you'd have at least 12.
Well, we only play a half in Seattle, so it's really
odd. Hey guys, you got to help your friend out here. He's going through withdrawal.
That's a good point.
Yes.
So,
if you want to hear more of my ramblings, and by the way, thanks for having me on, or read some of my ramblings, check out Bax Football Guru on Twitter. There's also ProFootballGuru.com. We're still updating the site. We've been doing a little traveling this year, so we're a little behind, but there's still a lot of good content on there. You can find me on Bleacher Report. You can find me on NFL Spin Zone. You can find me somewhere talking about football, which is what I love to do, and it was fun doing it with you guys as well. But I'm a little concerned medically for one of you.
That's got to be Ted, I'm sure. So
Has to be.
All right, Russell. Thanks for being on.
By the way, would it make you feel better if I sent you like a Pro Football Guru T-shirt?
You know, I was looking at that on your website. I was like, man, those shirts are sweet. So yes, that would be awesome.
It's funny. It's something I started doing about 2 years ago, and there was a white version out, and now the gray version is out, and it's something I do. We do giveaways, obviously. We do some trivia giveaways. We also sell them because some of the proceeds go to the American Cancer Society and raise some money for them. I lost my mother to cancer about 17 years ago, but this is my one way of saying hello every once in a while. So people have been very, very generous. But they're fun. But I can send you one if you promise to give me a selfie and I don't see a pouting face.
Well, you had me at selfie. I'll definitely be smiling in that shirt. That would be fantastic. I appreciate that.
Okay. Well, send me the size. Well, listen, all three. There are three of you in there, right?
In my head, yes. There's Pete Carroll, John Schneider, and myself.
Yeah. How many people am I actually talking to?
Three. You're talking to three.
There's three, okay? Three excluding the 6 listeners, correct?
That's correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So you guys, you can email me. Anybody can email. Russell@profootballguru.com. You can email me your size and email me your mailing address, and I'll make sure I splotch it all over the internet. And just kidding. And we'll get you some shirts, and then you guys can be the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria for a selfie.
Russell, quick question.
Thank you.
Is that shirt size or ego size? Because there's a big difference there.
No. We're talking shirt, not Mardi Gras.
Awesome. All right. We'll definitely do that, and thanks for being on.
All right, guys. Enjoy the weekend. Should be fun.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks so much.
All right. Talk to you soon.
I cut him off. I'm sorry, Russell. I didn't mean to do that.
And I was going to chide him for not having him in black.
Guys, maybe you're still there. Russell, I cut you off. I'm sorry. No, he was. If you're still there, Russell.
I'm still here.
Okay, I'm sorry. I cut you off. I thought thanks, and then I was like, I got sad again. So yes, as I'm apt to do. So besides the shirts, everybody again really should. The shirts are fantastic. Just go to the website, and the shirts are great. I saw the gray one, and I was like, yeah, they're great. So I meant to ask you real fast. Do you actually have a prediction on the games tomorrow? Or you just
I like both the home teams.
Okay.
I like both the home teams. I like Denver actually to win in overtime. I don't really have a score in mind for Cal. I kidded it out 45-44. Listen, I think Carolina's won 12 straight at home. They're 21-2 in their last 23 games if you go back to last year. And Arizona's had a magnificent season. I just think it's funny. A lot of people talk about Arizona as being the more prolific offensive team, and Carolina is actually, numbers-wise, has been pretty good. Okay? I mean, Cam Newton's thrown as many touchdown passes as Carson Palmer. He's also run for 10 scores. So I think that's not a knock on Arizona, okay? It's just so, hey, it could be one of these instances where maybe the two best teams in the league are in the same conference, and one of them, unfortunately, has to lose.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I was, again, not being a Seahawks owner, but really what worried me going into last week's game was the fact that Cam not only can run the ball, not only can throw the ball, but he's playing with so much confidence, more confidence than I've ever seen him play with, which means nothing, of course. But, I mean, and playing at home, it just seems like they came out so pumped up last week that, the second half almost didn't, the Seahawks came back, but it was almost like it didn't really matter. I mean, obviously it seems to be tough beating a player who is extremely talented like Cam Newton is, but, just with him playing with that much confidence, it's almost like he feels like he can't lose at this point. So, and as you pointed out rightfully, both defenses actually scored touchdowns. So, yeah, the games will be exciting. I know. One more question before I let you go. I know that you live in Connecticut. Do you have a favorite NFL team, or do you just enjoy the game overall?
No. In my business, you don't root. You write.
Okay. Yeah. I've heard that before as well, and that's probably a good way. It's probably more fun in a way because you get so emotionally involved.
I'll put it this way. Let's say if I had a favorite team, okay? This is just my philosophy. This is how I grew up. In this profession, let's say I had a favorite team. A, what would be my credibility on that team? And B, what would be my credibility surrounding the other 31 teams as far as giving you an objective opinion?
That's a great point. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's very true, and that's what I've heard.
See, that's why I use it. That's why I tell people I'm a writer, not a rooter.
Yeah, that's probably smart, and maybe you enjoy the Super Bowl more than I would. You know?
I mean, and I will be there. I leave for San Francisco a week from tomorrow. I'll be in the city for 4 days, and down in Santa Clara, actually helping CBS work on the telecast, which I'm very excited about. And it'll be a lot of fun. I've been to about 20-plus Super Bowls. I went, every year when I was at ESPN and so on. So it's a great experience, and getting there and being there is a lot of fun. It's the Super Bowl. I mean, it's, I remember, you're not going to the dentist. You're going to the Super Bowl. Okay? I remember a couple of years ago when I was in New York, and people 3 years in advance were complaining about the weather. Okay? Of course, those people who were complaining 3 years in advance and forecasting what snow was going to be and the temperature was going to be, those are the same people who couldn't pick a football game on a weekly basis, but they knew the weather 3 years in advance. And by the way, they all swung and missed. But so do you want to, in my profession, do you want to complain about the Super Bowl, or do you want to go to the Super Bowl?
Good point. Yeah.
Just please remember, I mean, especially guys in our profession, this just in, they're the guys doing all the work. We just write about it.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite Super Bowl that you went to? You've been to so many, but is there one that stands out more than the other?
I would say Super Bowl 32 in San Diego when Denver played Green Bay. I still consider it the best game of the 49 Super Bowls in terms of a back-and-forth game. It was a big upset. The NFC had won 13 in a row. Denver was a wild card. The Packers were defending. It had all the setup, and it was such a back-and-forth game, and the way it ended and so on, and you get a legend like John Elway who winds up winning the title finally after so many Super Bowl failures and so on. That to me, that was. I mean, I was in San Diego for the week, doing the Sports Center shows and Countdown and all that stuff. That was, as far as the week of and the game itself, which again was so back and forth. 7-0. It's still the only Super Bowl in 49 Super Bowls in which both teams scored a touchdown on their opening possession, and it kind of set the tone for the game.
Wow, I did not know that. Wow, I would have had if somebody asked me that question, I would have no idea that actually happened. That's crazy. Well, Russell, we'll let you go. I really appreciate you. Well, we all appreciate you being on the show, including the voices in my head. So,
well,
thanks
you've had
very
me
much.
on so long, I think your shirts have arrived.
Well,
and they
the
awesome.
weather. With the weather nowadays, you don't know, but I'm sure.
That's true.
No, I appreciate it. All right, well, thank you very much. Enjoy watching the games, enjoy writing about the games, and we'll definitely read about it. So thank you very much.
You got it, guys. All right, enjoy the weekend. Have fun.
Thanks.
Well,
Russell Baxter, as always,
coverage.
Fantastic. Yes, it was. It was the one.
We owe him like 2 T-shirts for all that.
I know. Well, yeah, we should trade, right? We should send him a Happy Hour Network T-shirt. That would be fantastic. Yeah.
That was a super-sized interview. Oh, my, oh, my.
It's because I could not keep my mouth closed. It was, wait, we talked about football. It's got to be Seahawks time, right? So let's talk about how my team lost. So, yeah. No, Baxter's always really great. He's been on the Seahawks show before, too. He's always fantastic. So any final words, you guys?
I'm just grateful that Russell helped us survive your monopolization of the show as always, sir.
I didn't want to go there.
No, Russell was awesome. Russell was absolutely, like you said, he always is. He's fantastic. And I was thinking, it's like when he said, that's the first time we've had, the only time when 2 teams scored on their first possession. He said, well, nobody would know that except for Russell Baxter. That's why we have him on.
I mean, but isn't that crazy? In all the Super Bowls, that's the only time that's ever happened? That's crazy.
That is extremely crazy.
So
That's why you go to the site.
What are you guys talking about right now? I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
Well, if anybody else was not paying attention throughout the show, they can find replays of this at various outlets, including the Happy Hour Network. So when we close the show, we will tweet that and Facebook that out. So if you missed any part of the show, especially the part with the great Russell Baxter, you can replay it and listen for the first time, in a way. So anyway, that's our show. Thanks to Russell Baxter for being on. Great to have anybody listening to the show. We appreciate it. Next show for Happy Hour Network is the tennis scene tomorrow at 10 a.m. We will talk to Joe Kennard about the Australian Open. A lot of upsets, some tennis match-fixing issues, and what the second week holds. We still have Serena, still have Joko, so it should be a great week. Everybody, thanks for listening. This is A Miracle.
Do the Titans have a miracle left in them? Christie kicks it high and short. Going to be fielded by Lorenzo Neal at the 25. Pitches it back to Wycheck. He throws it across the field to Dyson.
He's got something.
30,
He's got
40,
something.
50.
He's got it.
40,
He's got it.
20, 10.
He's got it.
End zone. Touchdown Titans. There are no flags on the field. It's a miracle. Tennessee has pulled a miracle.
There's no better deal for $4 than the Wendy's 4-for-4 meal. Start with our Junior Bacon Cheeseburger. Made with fresh beef and freshly cooked bacon, crisp all-white meat chicken nuggets, natural cut fries, and an ice cold Coke. All for just $4. No one makes $4 sound as good as Wendy's. Get more for $4. The 4-for-4 meal deal. Now at Wendy's. Offer includes small fries and drink at participating Wendy's for a limited time. Prices may vary. Offer not valid in Alaska and Hawaii. Fresh ground beef available in the contiguous U.S. and Canada.